Hello students, and welcome to this week's lecture, intended to teach you everything you need to know to survive English class. As always, I am your lecturer, Professor Blake, Petit. As is usually the case during these summer sessions, I notice that several of you seem to have skipped this week's class in order to attend the San Diego Comicon. Well, the loss, my friends, is theirs, because this week, our lecture is about the world's first superhero. In fact, this legend is believed by many scholars to be the oldest surviving story told in any language, as told by Larry King, the Epic of Gilgamesh. As always, I encourage you to follow along with your textbook, which sadly is not available in the campus bookstore, no doubt due to some nefarious scheme by Lex Luthor. You can, of course, acquire a copy either electronically or in print from Amazon.com. Open your books, please, to page 7, and let's begin. The Epic of Gilgamesh. One of the earliest known works of literature, even predating Dick Clark's autobiography, is the Epic of Gilgamesh. The oldest surviving versions of this story date back to the 18th century BC at 6:42 p.m. on a Thursday. These earliest versions consisted of 5 different Sumerian poems about the title character, which were combined centuries later into the standard version people are aware of today, mainly because movie executives had not yet evolved from reptiles and invented the franchise. The standard version consists of 12 tablets about Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, a hero who is 2/3 god and 1/3 man, raising some mathematical intriguing questions about the night of his conception that we leave for the reader to consider for themselves. Gilgamesh isn't that nice a guy, as it turns out. He spends his time beating up the young men in his kingdom in various physical contests, or just straight up forcing them to do slave labor. As for the women, Gilgamesh exercises the king's right of droit de seigneur, or major league butt munch in Latin, which allows the king to sleep with women on their wedding night. Presumably any children that resulted from these couplings would be 2/6 god, or maybe 4/9, or something. We're frankly not that good at math. The gods, in sharp contrast to later and more popular Greek deities, didn't like the fact that Gilgamesh is being such a douche. To teach him a lesson, they create a hairy mountain man named Enkidu to fight him. Enkidu hides out in the betrothed couple's wedding chamber, and when Gilgamesh arrives to steal the first piece of wedding cake, if you catch our drift, the two of them wrestle. When Enkidu admits that Gilgamesh is a superior warrior to him, the two become best buddies, proving that men have been fundamentally the same since the dawn of civilization. To celebrate their new friendship, Gilgamesh and Enkidu decide to hunt and slay Humbaba, a monstrous demigod that somehow managed to terrify people despite having the most ridiculous name in all of mythology. As they seek Humbaba, they each freak out over various dreams they're having, which means that Gilgamesh has made the remarkable transition from jackass to wuss in record time, a transformation even contemporary writers have trouble pulling off convincingly. They eventually capture Humbaba with a little help from the sun god Shamash, and Gilgamesh kills him by punching him in the throat. And because the head of a demigod makes for a hell of a conversation piece, they decide to float it home on a raft. Along the way, Gilgamesh is approached by the goddess Ishtar, but rejects her because he's heard bad stories about her former relationships with creatures like Dumzuzi and Warren Beatty. Ishtar threatens to start a zombie apocalypse if her daddy Anu doesn't punish Gilgamesh, which he does by sending the bull of heaven to kill hundreds of people and dry up the Euphrates River. Harsh, perhaps, but she's still more understanding than certain ex-girlfriends we could mention. Their plan falls flat, though, when Gilgamesh and Enkidu kill the bull and invent the barbecue. The gods are starting to get upset over these two going around and killing all their stuff. So they send Enkidu a bad dream in which he dies. Then he dies. Seriously, guys, do not get the gods mad at you. It doesn't end well. If you think Enkidu had it bad, wait until you find out what happened to Odysseus. Anyway, Gilgamesh then commands all of Uruk to mourn for his friend, including all the wild animals, forests, fields, rivers, and mountains. Gilgamesh may have been drunk at the time. At this point, it's kind of hard to tell. Now afraid of dying himself, Gilgamesh decides to seek out the immortal Utnapishtim for helpful hints. After many wild and crazy adventures, he finds the man and asks him the secret of immortality. Shockingly, Utnapishtim tells him it's having a name no gravestone carver could ever spell. Also, he says, he outsmarted the gods who once tried to wipe out humanity with a flood. Utnapishtim, guided by the god Ea, built a boat for his family and loaded it down with animals to survive the flood. The goddess Enlil was angry for a minute at how blatantly Utnapishtim ripped off the Noah story, but later decided it was actually kinda clever and made him immortal as a reward. So how am I supposed to use this information? Gilgamesh asks. You're not, Utnapishtim said. Just go to the boxthorn plant from the bottom of the ocean and you're good. Try leading with that next time, Gilgamesh said. So Gilgamesh fetches the plant by tying rocks to his shoes to sink to the bottom from the ocean and claim it from Jimmy Hoffa. It looks like everything will be cool for a while, but then a serpent steals the plant, and Gilgamesh cries like a little girl, which isn't exactly the ending one would expect for an epic hero. This is probably why the Epic of Gilgamesh remains one of the few classic works of literature Hollywood hasn't exploited to death. Yet. The 12th and final tablet in the standard version is problematic, as Enkidu is still alive in it despite having died back in Tablet 7, an inconsistency that was immediately pointed out on the ancient Sumerian internet. In this one, Enkidu offers to go to the underworld to get Gilgamesh's ball back. He gets stuck there a while before finally slipping out of a crack back to the surface world, at which point Gilgamesh asks him what he saw down there, prompting Enkidu's classic response of, seriously dude, don't, let it go. This concludes this week's lecture, my friends, with just enough time to get to the Robert Downey Jr. signing. Stay on your seats! Don't forget, my office is always open at facebook.com/BlakeMPT, on Twitter @BlakeMP, or on Instagram @BlakeMP25. Thank you for your rapt attention. Please refrain from shivving anyone with a batleth at the Star Wars panel, and we will return for another lecture next week.